Good morning, campground and RV park owners, operators, and managers. Brian Searle here, founder and CEO of Insider Perks. Really excited to be connecting with you guys daily in this one-on-one video format, trying to offer some practical tips, tricks, marketing advice, things that you can use to help increase your camper nights, increase your revenue, and just overall be more successful. So today what I want to talk about is websites. And I know we've had conversations about this in the past about domain registration and in general. But what I really want to talk about today is the usability of your website, which is something I feel like not enough of you consider every single day. And so this came across my desk today. I was having a conversation with a client about it. And when we go as website designers to develop websites, I think by default our gut instinct is to kind of go with whatever we think is right, gain some feedback from the client, make some changes, and then ultimately launch a website. And while some of us will consider usability, and all of us should, there's not really that kind of pushback against the client when the client is saying, I want things to be a certain way, I want this to go here, I want that to go here. And that's all well and good. Ultimately, it's your website. You have the right to make that decision and make that call. But I feel like as website designers, people who work with this stuff every single day, there should be at least a part or an effort on our end to push back just a little bit and say, this is a great idea, this would look good, but here's the thing, we're really focused on making a website that works well for your guests and your potential guests, doesn't necessarily work well for me or work well for you. And so I feel like there's kind of a responsibility ethics-wise for us to kind of tell you that kind of information. And then, of course, if you overrule us anyway, then it's your website. We're more than happy to do whatever you want. But when you think about usability, the first thing that probably comes to mind is responsive website design. And if you don't have a responsive website yet, well, Google's probably penalizing you and you're losing traffic as a result of it. So you need to get that fixed. But that's not really what we're here to talk about either. I really want to just talk about how people navigate your website. And it, of course, is different for every industry. And we're talking specifically about campgrounds and RV parks, but it's still, even within that, it's different based on your age and whether you're using a mobile device or a desktop device or all kinds of different variables. But the key is to know how most of your visitors use your website. And then going one step further is the information that most people are looking for when they come to your website. Because once you get a website done, it shouldn't stop there. You can say I've got a great website, it's hosted, it's well, but the fact that this idea that once it's done, the work stops and you don't need someone to constantly refine, check it, do backups, do security, look and analyze for trends and figure out ways to make things better is kind of a mistake, I think, at least, on the part of a lot of business owners out there, because trends change, things need updated constantly, and usability is one of those things that probably should be tracked at least once a year. I mean, at the very least. But there are things that we use in our toolbox that I'm not going to give you the company we specifically use, but because we flip-flop back and forth. There are a lot of good ones out there, and I don't want to really recommend anybody. But it's basically heat map technology. And so this is a piece of code that you can put on your website that will, have Google Analytics tracks visitor behavior. This will actually track visitor behavior and basically put a heat map, kind of like, that radar vision that you can use to kind of see objects that give off heat that you've seen in the movies and things like that. And so you can actually track the user behavior, where they move their mouse, where they click most frequently, how far down the page they scroll, when they're on the page, what are they reading, where's their mouse moving, where are they scrolling, those kinds of things. And that data, if you know how to interpret it right, will tell you exactly where the majority of your visitors are going. And you can find out all kinds of useful information, like whether they're even looking at your menu or whether they're scrolling down to that really awesome slideshow that you have that's buried on the second half of your front page, or all kinds of different things. And so you need to utilize this to figure out how your guests are interacting with your website, because you may end up finding out that because your reservations button is placed in a different spot, maybe on the left instead of the right, or a little bit too far down the page, that not a lot of people are going to that page, or maybe they're looking for it and struggling to find it. And so usability is a huge part of website design, and I feel like most website designers do take it into account. But I feel like a lot of them are also at the same time afraid to push back against a client and say, again, great idea, but really what we're trying to do is work with your guests and satisfy them and make sure that you're making as much revenue and income as you possibly can. And I feel like from a small business owner standpoint, if you were told that by someone that you trusted and had hired for their expertise, I feel like the majority of you would probably say, okay, that makes sense. If you were shown some data, or you were shown some heat mapping, or you were shown some studies that people, navigate left to right or right to left, whatever it may be. I feel like most of you are smart enough to take the expert's opinion there. Sure, there's going to be some outliers, but I think overall you're coming to us as the experts, website design people, and that we have an obligation to tell you that stuff. So really appreciate you guys joining me for another video here. Hopefully you can get a hold of your website designer, maybe take a critical look at your website, ask your guests what they're looking for that they can't find easily, and then maybe kind of coordinate with them and see if you can make some small changes or updates that will ultimately help you be more successful. So we'll see you tomorrow.